Okay, so to follow up on the last video where we created this idler arm, today we're going to create a drawing of this idler arm. First thing I need to do though, the drawing format I'm going to use that I taught how to build in a separate video has some parameters in it. And when we modeled this the other week when I made this, I didn't add any of those parameters in here. So I'm going to add them in. I may forget one or two. We'll see if I remember all of them. My first one was title underscore line 1. And each of these I'm going to change to a string, which allows me to put in whatever information I want in that box for my format. Second one was title line 2. And if you set up while I'm doing this, if you set up a start part, you can actually put this as a format or a template where the parameters will automatically show up and you don't have to type these in every time. So my next one was material line 1. So I add a few material lines in case the material has a really long name. I have rev for revision. Then I have drawn by, drawn date, and you know what? I might have to double check if I have all those. But what I'm going to do is just bring up my project so I can make sure I have everything in there. So here's my project. We have a couple other ones. I almost forgot. So we have next assembly. This one we don't know what that is, but that's okay. We have drawing number. I think that should be just about all. If I forget one, it'll ask me for it either way. So my title is going to be idler arm. My material is aluminum alloy. I'm going to blow these up so you can see them a little better. Aluminum alloy, and I know that the whole thing isn't going to fit, so I'll go to title line 2. It is 6061 T6. Revision is going to be a dash because we haven't released it yet. Drawn by is going to be my first initial and last name. Drawn date is today. Next assembly is a dash. And my drawing number is MS1003-01. I'm going to hit OK. And now I can start my drawing. So I'm going to go File, New, Drawing. I'm going to title my drawing the number I said. And I'm going to go empty with Format, Browse, and select my formats. I'm going to go with a C size. May have to go up to a D depending on how this lays out. I'm going to hit OK. Looks like I got all my stuff because it all filled in right here. But you can see the reason that it filled in, if you didn't see the other video, is because if I go into the properties here, you'll see that this right here is title line 1 and title line 2. So if I was to go into my parameters for my part, and I was to say change it, or said idler and then arm on 2 lines, you can see it'll drop it down like that. But I want them all on 1 line because that looks nice. Okay. There's a little formatting stuff, but I can always change that down the road. So now what I'm going to do to start out is I'm going to insert my first general view, and I can do that a few ways. I can click up here, I can hold right click, I can hit general view. I like the whole click thing because in Creo they've added that where you can kind of right click and find anything you need to do, and I kind of like that to save time. Every time I move my mouse I'm slowing down. So I'll click to place my view, And based on how I laid out my drawing, I can see that this front face is really my most descriptive face. All right, so I'm going to go with the front, which should orient it just like that if you followed my other tutorial to model it that way. I'll show you what I would do if I couldn't orient it like that. So let's say it was in 3D and it wasn't oriented this way. Another handy thing we can do is go geometry references, and then I can select the front as this front face, and then as the top I can say this top surface is the top of my part, and that'll orient it in the same way. But if you think about this when you're modeling, what it'll allow you to do is just select an actual view and rotate it to the view that you want. So that's why I try and do it that way. So I'm going to hit OK. My scale's a little off right now. I'm going to bump it up to 1 by just double clicking down there and going to 1. That's very important. Do not go into your view and change the scale. Here, custom scale. Notice that word custom. That means that the scale is different than the rest of my drawing. So I don't want to set my drawing scale in there because it's not a custom scale. The drawing scale is down here. Okay, and then the last thing I have to do is I need to unlock my views right up here so I can start moving things around, getting in the orientation I want. Now if I think about this part, I have a couple very important features, and something I do like to do at the beginning sometimes if I'm not sure where I want to project my views is I'll right click and I'll go to another general view and I'll create myself my ISO. I'll put it up here, and then I'll kind of think about what are the important features here. Well, I have important features on this surface here, which is our front. I have a hole in the top, okay, which I probably want to be able to see. So that tells me I'm probably going to need a top view. And then I also have some holes in the side as well as some features that come out the side that tell me I probably want a side view as well, because there's a lot going on that I may not be able to see from the top. Okay, I could save some time by throwing a section in here, but I don't know that I'll necessarily need it. We'll see if I do down the road. So I'm going to pick this view. I'm going to pick the projection view. All I did was just left select it, by the way, and it brings up that nice menu. Pick projection view. I'm going to put that top view I talked about in. I'm going to pick it again. I'm going to put a projection view. I'm going to put that right side view. And that should show me just about everything I need to show here. Although the back of this thing is interesting. The back part does have some additional features. So why don't I move this over for now? I'll move this over, and then I'm actually even going to project it one more time. If I end up not using that view, I'll delete it. Not a big deal. But I can see very quickly here that this size of the format is quickly becoming very small, okay? Because my features are fairly reasonable sizes, but my view is taking up a lot of the room. I'm not going to have much room for dimensions in between. I can even see right here, my title block's forcing me to bring this up a little bit. So we'll see how this goes. I know right away I'm probably going to have to shrink this ISO, but I'm going to start putting my dimensions in before I decide I'm going to change the whole format of the drawing. So I'm going to go up to Annotate. I'm going to go to Show Model Annotations, and this is where modeling things correctly can save me a lot of time. So what I like to do is go on Dimension, and then for a complex part like this, you see all these features we created. I'm going to start with the top one, which is Revolve 1. I'm going to select it. It's going to show me some dimensions. My first revolve was this little round thing here. And because this part's more complex, in past videos, a lot of times I just say, okay, hit all the check boxes. I don't want all the check boxes because I don't want this 360. Okay, I'm also going to have to think about where I want to put things. So I'm going to select my diameter. I'm going to select my length. Okay, and I'm going to hit OK. Because I want to start thinking about where I want to show these things. So this one down here, right away, I like that right there. That shows very clearly where that dimension goes. This one, however, does not clearly show in this view where I want it to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select Move to View, and the way you do that is just select the dimension just once with your left click and select Move to View. And I really like this view because you can see right here, if I drag this down, there's my width right there. Okay. The other thing that may save me some time that I might want to do right now is I may want to change the view format. I don't want it to be shaded. That's unacceptable. So I'm going to hold Control. I'm going to select this view. Oop, missed that one. Hold Control, select that view. Hold Control, select that one. Hold Control, select that one. Then I'll go into the properties here. And I'm just going to go for now, no hidden. and then I really like dimmed for tangency. The reason I'm going no hidden is that if I had my hidden lines on, these views quickly become a little more complex and a little harder to see what's going on. It's not necessarily wrong, but I don't know that it adds anything to my drawing, so I'm going to stick with no hidden. Okay, and then the other thing that you may notice is usually I fix my attachments here. If I leave it like this, what's going to happen is it'll automatically create a gap right here because it overlaps that corner. But if I want to be real picky, which I could be, I can bring this right down myself and get them formatted here. This is not going to be a very quick drawing, obviously, because there's a lot going on here. All right, and I just forgot to select that view. That's why I'm changing that now. But this is how it should look. So then when I put out my PDF, everything's nice black and white lines. I don't waste a bunch of ink by having things shaded. So I'm going to go back to Show Model Annotations. I'm going to go to my next feature, Extrude 1. Okay, and if you ever forget what one you're on, just click one and go, oh, well, only one dimension I don't want shows up, so I'll go to the next one. So I'm going to select that, and then I can see there's a bunch of views I definitely want, or a bunch of dimensions at least I definitely want. I definitely want this one. Definitely want this one from center to center, and I definitely want this one. Okay, and then I'm going to hit OK. And again, I'm going to move some things around. So this is going to be my center to center. This one, I'm going to move down to here because, as you can see, it's that width right there. I'm going to have to move some other stuff as well. Let's put it on top of the edges so you don't see it. And then this one down here is a little confusing because it looks like it could be that hole there. But if I drag it up, you can see it's actually the width of right there. So what I'll do is I'll drag my attachments up, my little leader extensions. And the other thing that I know I'm going to need is probably some axes. I probably want to use this to show from axis to axis, and I'm probably going to put that dimension there as well. So why don't I put those in now so I don't forget. You can always go and go through your own process, put your dimensions in, then make your axes and then all that sort of thing. But sometimes as I'm putting dimensions, I like not to forget to do something like that. So the way I'm going to do that, same thing, show model annotations. Now I'm going to select the datum tab, and then I like to select the view rather than the feature because that'll give me a whole bunch of stuff. So I can pick this axis here, I can pick this one here, make sure I get that plus sign, not the long one, and then I can pick this one here. I can hit OK. Now I have those axes. If you have one that's the wrong size, like this one obviously needs to go much wider out, you select it from the middle with this little move icon showing up. And you can just, whoop, missed it. Try that again. Select it from the middle, and then I click it. Ooh, I missed it again. Holy cow. It's just not letting me adjust that thing. I build it up a little bit so I can select it better. There we go. So now if you select it from the middle and move it up, what's going to happen is they'll all move equally. And what I was trying to do was to get it outside of these arcs here, because that's the biggest diameter or radius I'm going to dimension on this view. So I'm going to go to about here. Now I need to edit this dimension because I don't want it to overlap my axis. So I'm going to put a little gap there. I'm going to put a little gap there. And now those dimensions are placed pretty well. So I'll move on to the next one. Revolve 2. Oop, got to hit dimension first. Revolve 2. That's my extrusion on the top. So I definitely want that one. Definitely want a diameter for it. I don't need the 360. And it's really up to me how I want to show this. This height here and this diameter could be shown a number of different ways. If I show it on this view, that means I need to show an axis down the middle to show that it's a round object. And my diameter isn't enough to show that. Because my top view is not going to have a whole lot of dimensions on it, I'm actually going to move it up there. I'm going to bring this around like so, or maybe I'll put it up. I'm going to have more room above the view, thinking long term here. And then I just need to pick this guy. And it's up to me how I want to do it. Could put it on the same side. I think that looks pretty nice. So why don't I put those in? Put this over here. And then I'm just going to drag this over to this side. I'm going to drag this over to this side. And now I have the height there as well. All right, dimensions or our drawing's starting to come together a little bit. So then I'm going to go back up here, show model annotations. Now I'm going to come down to extrude. That's where I added that little chunk in below for my keyway. And for this one, there's a lot going on here. Now what I'm going to do to start off, but I'm kind of wondering long term, if maybe a detail view may help me a little bit here, may give me a little more information. So I'm going to need the width. I'm going to need how far down it goes. I'm going to need that radius. Is there anything else? Yes, I need the width up here. I almost missed that one. I'm going to hit OK. And now in order to really show what this is going to, I'm going to move it to this view. Because I really like the idea of pulling this right up here to show right off the bat. Okay, there's a difference in the sides. However, symmetrically, it's the same across the middle. All right, and I may need to add a dimension in, but it does imply that it's symmetric because I don't put a middle dimension. Now this one here, I'm going to move this up like this. Again, I think I might need a detail view down the road, but I'm still going to use it right now. And then for this one, I'm also going to go up to the dimension here. I'm going to adjust my dimension text. I'm actually going to put a, before my radius, a 2x. All right, to let it know that there's an arc here. There's also one on the other side as well. I'm just thinking out loud, I could move this over here to make that a little more apparent, because those tangent edges make it a little tough in here. I'm going to leave it there for now. If it ends up being confusing, I'll adjust it. No big deal. And I'm going to bring this one out as well, just so it doesn't cover that up. Now here's where it's going to start getting a little crowded. I have a dimension here. I have one here as well. I'll bring this down. I'll bring this one right above it. Try and line it up as best I can. And then one thing I can do while I'm dragging it around my left mouse button, I can right click while I have my left mouse button selected and flip the arrows back and forth. Otherwise, you could just do that by going up here. And you can only do it once. You can do it all the time the other way. Alright, so that doesn't look too bad so far. Again, keeping in mind I may need a detail view down the road. I think I will once I have the keyway dimensioned. But we'll get there when we get there. So I just did extrude 2. I'm going to go to extrude 3. Here's where that hole above there comes in, and now things are starting to get a little more crowded. Pick those two. I'm going to hit OK. And now I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. This may look better if I move it over to the other side, like so. And then in order to be consistent, I could even bring that one over if I wanted. Does that look better? I don't know. I'm going to hold Control and select all these so I can move them all together. Just kind of space them out nicely. And then I'm going to take this and move it over because I do think that looks better. It gets it away from this little protrusion on the side that I'm probably going to have to dimension later. So then I can take this, I can bring this radius right around like that. That's kind of consistent with how I did that one. So I like that. And this one I'm also going to bring it away. This is all just a little detail stuff that you can't overlook because this is going to be the difference between this looking very nice or looking like you threw it together very quickly. So then I'm going to move my way down. I've got an axis I created. That doesn't have a dimension. Then I'm going to go to extrude 4. Okay. Now we're starting to get a little more crowded, but it's because of this guy on the side. I also have another view I can show this too. So I'm going to keep both of these, both of those. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to move both Move that one over here, and I'm actually going to move this one over to this view. So I've got more room over here. Alright, and for this one, now that I have that there, there's a couple things that are important. Number one, I need to be able to imply that this axis is on the axis of this other hole here. So I'm going to go back into my datums. I'm going to turn this view on, and I'm going to select not only the axis that goes through there, but I'm also going to select the axis for my little protrusion there as well. Okay, and actually, you know, thinking out loud, I really don't need both of those. I only need this one. I'll show you how we can extend the other one. But also on this view, I'm also going to need this axis. I'm also going to need this axis. But I'm going to actually create that one with this one. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK, put my two axes in. Now I'm going to situate them the way I want. So this one, I want to drag that out to imply that it's on the center of this axis over here, or this one here. And on this one, I'm going to do kind of the opposite. I'm going to drag it out like so, so it gets to the outer radius, and I'm going to grab just this side, and I'm going to drag it out so that it lines right up like that. Now I can play around with this to get it to the right above where the axis ends. I can drag this up, a little space there, move that up there. Let's try and get those lines up. Alright, and now I've kind of shown, without really putting too much detail in, where all those dimensions go. So then I'm going to go back to dimension up here, show model annotations. That was that extrude. Now I'm going to go down to this hole. Okay, this hole, pretty clear. It's a hole that goes through right there. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to leave it on this view, kind of like crisscrossing dimensions like that. It makes it really easy to figure out which one's which. And then for this one, it also goes through, so I need to say that, THRU, or I could put it up here. But make sure you put that space in, because you don't want it to be right after that 4. You want a space in between so it's easy to read. Alright, and now I've got that, so that's pretty good. Move my way down, next hole, the hole on the side. Okay, this one is actually a threaded hole, so it's giving me some thread notifications here, including some depths. What is that depth there? Oh, okay, that is my thread depth. The rest is the actual tap drill and things like that. So for that one, if I go back to my drawing, which looks like, bear with me, which looks like this. I have an M10 by 1.5 hole that goes through to the bore. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a PDF. I'm going to put it on my other screen. I'm going to show an axis. Okay, on this view, I'm going to select this axis. And hit OK. Now to imply that it's on the center there, I'm going to extend this out, because that tells me there is a hole that goes further through than just what these little axis lines go. If they went the same length, it would be implied that I'm only dimensioning this hole here. Because they extend beyond the feature, and these don't go as far as those, it implies that it's on another axis. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to put in a note for my M10 by 1.5 hole. So I'm going to go up to Note. I'm going to hit the arrow, because I don't want an unattached note. I want a leader note. And then I'm going to select, and it's really up to you. You can select the tap drill or the thread. Okay, I'm going to select the thread. I'm going to bring this out like this. I'm middle click, and I'm going to type in all caps, M10 by 1.5. And then on the next line, I'm going to say through to bore, which says drill that through until it breaks into the bore there. Okay. And then what I like to do is I like to select my attachment and drag it over because technically this is supposed to point right to the center. And sometimes it's pretty good at finding that on its own, which it just did, so that's pretty good. Alright, I don't need any dimensions for the angle, I don't need any dimensions for anything other than where it is. And right now it's in the center, okay? And the reason that I don't have a dimension for that is if we go into my part, if you created it like I did, I do have a dimension. Well then, that means my dimension is hiding somewhere. So I need to go find them. So I'm going to go Show Model Annotations, Dimension. I'm going to select that hole again. Where is that dimension? Let's try it over here. Let's try one more thing. There it is. So if I select the feature, it pops up. What probably happened is it assumed I wanted to just select this view. So when I picked the hole, it didn't show it right away. So I'm going to hit OK. And now I can take this dimension, I can pull it over, and then I could right click if I want to kind of save a little space. I'm just going to fix my attachments. Okay. And it's up to you how you want to do this. Personally, I like to keep my stuff grouped together. This is all in the same area. The other thing you could do to try and help out your machinist is you can move this note over here so it's right near that dimension, but I kind of like where it was. So I'm going to put it back. Alright, still in the same general zone of the drawing. So then I'm going to go Show Model Annotations again. I'm going to go down to my next hole, which is hole number 3, the hole through the center here, and this is going to be the one that's going to dictate how this whole area is going to go. So I'm going to pick that dimension, I'm going to hit OK, and bring it around to here. Okay, and the reason for that is I just want it to cross through less stuff. This isn't wrong, okay, but look at all these lines that you got to figure out where the line's going through. Bring it down here. Look how much easier that is to follow where it's going to. Okay, and then same thing for this one. I need to say through. Okay. So then I can go down to the next one, which is the keyway. And I think the keyway is what's going to force me to use a detail view, but we'll see. Maybe I can get away without it. I'm going to pick that. I'm going to pick that. I'm going to hit OK. Let's see if I can clean this up in a nice way. So my keyway is probably going to have to come down through these guys. So this is going to have to move down. This is getting dangerously close to hard to read. But we'll see. Maybe we can fit it. Could flip that out or flip it in. Really up to you. That's not too bad. I don't love it, but it's not bad. Move that out. Move this down here. Now I'm kind of wondering if it should go up here. It's like, nah, I want to keep it with the other dimensions. So I'm going to keep it down here. I don't love this, but it does avoid me having to create another view somewhere. And it's not too hard to see, so I guess I'm okay with that. But normally what I would do is probably put a nice detail view here. I think I might have to once we get up to this hole up here. We'll see. I'm going to try and put it off as long as I can. So then I'm going to create another hole. This is the hole that goes through here all the way through to here. I definitely want that. I'm going to hit OK. But as we talked about before, I want to move it up to this view. Alright, I'm going to flip my arrows. I can do it any number of ways. I like the double arrows personally, but that's just a personal preference. The other thing I'm noticing that I didn't realize before is that I need an axis up here. I'm going to show model annotations. I'm going to pick that view. And I'm going to pick the axis. That's my through axis. That's the one for there. Hit OK. So now I have an axis there. Now for this guy, I need to say through to bore, which tells the machinist drill this thing down till it breaks into a bore somewhere else, which is this 1.373 bore. Okay. And just because I have a personal preference of doing that sort of thing. That's what I'm gonna do. All right, hole number 5. That's the one on the side. That is also a threaded hole. It's an M12 by 1.75. So I don't need the depth. I don't need these diameters here. I really just need to put a note in that it goes through to the bore here. So I'm going to do the same thing as last time. Leader note. I'm going to pick the thread and bring it down here. I'm going to click M12 by 1.75. I haven't taught my students classes yet, so we're not going to put any sort of tolerance class on the end. And we're going to say through to bore. And we're going to drag that up so it's perpendicular to that axis. That looks pretty good. So we'll go show model annotations again. That was hole 5, I believe. We're going to go to hole 6. This one's also a threaded hole, and this one goes through to this hole as well. I'm going to cancel. I'm going to put a note in. A middle click, and I'm going to say this one is a M12 by 1.75 as well, through to bore. Some people like to actually say like through to whatever the hole is, so they might say like through to 8.74 hole, or to 8.74 hole, or 0.874 I should say, not 8.74. You knew what I meant. But the downside of that is we make some design changes. All of a sudden now I need to remember to change that. And then, you know, we could also absorb the dimension in there. But it's not necessarily the best way to do it. This is going to be right no matter what, unless I change how this part functions. It's always going to be drilled through to the bore, no matter what I change that size to. I do notice one other thing that I'm going to change there down the road, but that's okay for now. Show. We're going to go down to, look, we're already at our rounds. We're almost done with the whole thing. So we're going to go round 1, 0.118. Round 2, 0.118. Okay. Round 3, 0.118. Okay, so I'm not even going to bother putting any of those in. I'll tell you why. We're going to cover it with a note. And now that I see this, I don't know that I necessarily need this view, other than for clarification. So maybe I do need that view. But what I'm going to do, I only need this view for the top part here. So I'm going to teach you another method. I'm going to actually click on this guy. I'm going to go to visible area. I'm going to make it a partial view, because I'm only really trying to show this area up here to let them know that it doesn't look like this. Okay, so this is the center of my view, and I'm just going to come down. I'm going to chop this thing off right here. I'm going to middle click to close it. I hit OK. All right, now here's the reason I did that. Now I can drag these down. I can drag this down, and I can put some notes in. So I could put those notes here. I could put them up here. It depends on your preference. So I'm going to click this down arrow, unattached note. I'm going to put it down here. I'm going to click. I'm going to say, in all capitals, notes. And then hold shift, put a colon in. Note number 1. Remove all burrs and sharp edges. Okay, that's a pretty handy note. It's a note that we use a lot because we want things to be easy to handle. Second note, number 2. Unless otherwise specified, all fillets and rounds. Okay, I'm going to go to a second line. I like 2, 3, 4, 3. Fillets and rounds are 0.12. I think they were 0.118. 0.12 will be just fine. I'm going to click, space it. There we go. Okay, and now this drawing's basically done. All right, I've got all my information here. It's nicely laid out. It's easy to see, okay? And it's easy to understand what we're looking at, okay? It's easy to understand this side looks like this side looks like this side looks like this, okay? I can easily find the dimensions that I want, all right? If I'm creating an area, most of the dimensions are in the same general area. It's not something that's required when you're making a drawing, but if it's something that you can pay attention to, you could end up making a drawing that will now be manufactured much faster, and you're going to save your company a lot of money in the long run. But this is a basic drawing. There are some other things that I would add in here, okay, down the road, like geometric dimensioning and tolerancing, as well as some other dimensions. But as far as where my students have gotten to at this point in time, this is what I'm looking for this drawing. Okay.